YouTube stream?
Yeah, we're ready.
Let's go then. Lock and load, we're live. Cool. So, hi everyone, if you're on Discord, I'm going to post in the community call channel the link to the YouTube live, and you'll be able to see the screen of our presenters for today. They're posted. All right.
All right. Alessandro, can you mute yourself?
So right now, okay guys, you are presenting your screen on YouTube. You're not on Discord yet that I can see. So it would be great if you can activate your voice on Discord so that people who are on Discord can hear you. People who are on Discord, if you want to see the screen of our presenters today, I invite you to follow the YouTube link I just posted in the community call channel.
Henry,
yes?
If I'm joining Discord at the same time, I'm hearing you twice. How can we do it so we'll not hear twice?
There's no good solution for that. There's a bit of an echo.
You can actually mute Henry on Discord by right-clicking his name. And Henry, I'm on Discord, but you would have to make me a speaker on the stage channel or on the
Swag,
channel.
are you there? So invite to speak. Who else should I invite to speak in Discord?
Jonathan and eventually Alessandro and then Guiltygyoza when he's here.
Okay, so I'm going to invite everyone to speak, and you can mute your mic and then take the floor when you feel like it. Okay, so I invited Guiltygyoza. I invited Guiltygyoza. Who else should I invite? Alex inside.
Alessandro, it would be cool if you could connect on Discord as well in the Starknet Discord and join the community call stage.
Okay, cool. All right, so I guess we're ready to start. So I'll add Alexandro once you get there. Okay, hello everyone and welcome for our 11th community call. As usual, you can follow this call in voice only on Discord, or if you want to see our faces and the screen of our presenters today, I invite you to join the YouTube link that I just posted on the community call channel. You'll get everything, voice and you'll get voice and image and everything, so worth clicking there. And today for our community call, we're going to have 3 presentations by our members, and we can follow up with a short AMA if useful on Starknet generally. Today we'll have Matchbox DAO presenting what they're doing, what their mission is. Then we will have Alex presenting OGame, and finally we will have Guiltygyoza presenting Solve to Mint. So without further ado, Matchbox, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you very much. I think before we begin presenting Matchbox, it might be a good idea to dive into our backgrounds a bit. And Yoni, can you maybe introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, I'm Yoni. I'm in crypto for almost 10 years, mainly building stuff. Previously built, like a privacy coin and NFT museum and investment DAO and other things. And the last couple of months, I've been obsessed with the on-chain games and Starknet. So now Matchbox.
All right, my name is Svektimus. I've been a vocal member of the Ethereum community basically since 2017 when ICOs were a thing. Then I briefly lost interest, but came back when my interest was rekindled in 2019 when DeFi basically came to be and MakerDAO went live with DAI. And ever since, I've been just deep diving into Ethereum and scalability, and then quickly found my way to rollups, which was super exciting. And now I ended up with Starknet, and I've written some blog posts for Starkware. I'm doing some community management on Reddit. And I'm also running a weekly Starknet newsletter, which I can very much recommend if you want to keep up with everything that's going on Starknet. And then I got basically brought into MatchboxDAO by Yoni, who was very convincing about his vision for on-chain games. And that's what we're going to dive into today. So what is MatchboxDAO? In very simple terms, MatchboxDAO is a collective of developers, artists, and designers building the infrastructure of on-chain games on Starknet. And so it's important to distinguish between on-chain games and blockchain games, because blockchain games are not necessarily on-chain games. So it depends. So if we think about an on-chain game, then the source of truth for game data should be the blockchain, right? So it shouldn't be like some kind of server that's sitting somewhere off-chain and which does all the computation, and then you just post the results back to the chain, because that's not immutable and that's not trustless. Then the next thing is that the game logic and the rules are implemented via a smart contract. So the actual game and all the game logic is on-chain and all the computation happens on-chain. The game should also be developed in accordance with open ecosystem principles, which means that you should basically open source as much as possible and don't use like closed source things. And the next point is that the game should embrace real world value digital assets. So it means basically that you have like some kind of token or tokenized assets, and it should be like crypto native. So you don't pay for things with like USD or something like that, but you embrace crypto values. And so we've based this on the strongest crypto gaming thesis by Gupsheep, which is an amazing article, and I recommend you check it out and read it. And so why are we so excited about on-chain games? Because it has very distinct advantages. The biggest advantage is composability, which I will dive into in a minute, but also persistence, which means even if the game developer and game operator disappears, then everything is on chain and is still persisting. So it should still work. And that's a big advantage over traditional games, because if in traditional games they shut down the server or something, then you're left with a game that doesn't work anymore, right? And then the next thing is trustlessness. And thanks to Starknet, we can actually implement the game logic on chain in a trustless manner. So we do not anymore have to trust the game developer, but we can rest assured that the execution of the on-chain logic is like immutable and trustless, because it's all on-chain. And so this is where our motivation for MatchboxDAO is basically coming from. So Starknet isn't just fast and cheap, which is of course great, but Starknet actually allows us to do things that were previously impossible on any other blockchain. So on any other blockchain, on Ethereum L1, on Avalanche, on Solana, you cannot actually put complex game logic on chain, because the computation would just be too complex and too expensive. But on Starknet, we can do it. And so that's a very unique situation we're in, and a great opportunity, because this is a prerequisite for composability, right? Because previously, it just wasn't possible to do this on chain, but now that it's possible to actually put all the game logic on chain, we can harness the full power of composability, right? Because every game that will be on Starknet, ideally, of course, will be completely on chain. So what does this mean? We can compare this to DeFi and DeFi Lego blocks, right? So you have like certain primitives in DeFi, for example, stablecoins or AMMs. And they are like the foundation of DeFi. Like Uniswap or other AMMs, they have been forked like 10,000s of times. They're on different chains. They can be used for options trading, for leverage trading. You can add so much functionality to them and just put these Lego blocks together, and you get so much power out of this. And that's just the power of composability. And so how does this relate to on-chain games? We believe that the exact same thing is going to happen to on-chain games. On-chain games will benefit immensely from composability. Once we can actually put everything on-chain, then you can think of an on-chain game no longer as just a game, but actually as like a development platform for developers, right? Because you can use these smart contracts, you can reuse them, you can fork them, you can add functionality, you can stack these Lego blocks on top of each other and develop new and cool stuff. And so that's a really powerful narrative, and we are convinced that this is going to happen to on-chain gaming. So why MatchboxDAO? we are trying to act as a focal point for game developers on Starknet, because Starknet is still like a nascent ecosystem. So we are trying to bring the devs together so we can better cooperate and better standardize things. And why do we want to standardize gaming related things? It's actually very straightforward, because if someday we will have hundreds of on-chain games on Starknet and we have like 20 different NFT standards, then that's not very composable, right? So we want to kind of get things right and collaborate on different standards, which could be NFT interoperability standards, token standards, social graphs, wallet UX, various other protocols. For example, how do you present achievements in games and stuff like that. So we're trying to come together and standardize things so we can harness the full power of composability. So how does Matchbox operate? We have like this general high-level operations team, which consists of Jonathan, of me, of Dirkhet, of Magic, and Dhruv, where we just organize the high-level stuff of Matchbox DAO. And then we have people that we call core contributors. And they consist of developers and of people that are more into the content and coordination side of things. So for the developer side of things, we have grantees, which we will dive into a bit later. And we have basically just carried us from existing projects, right? So we have people from Brick, we have people from Influence, from Yagify, Bitmapbox, Realms, C Casino. We have the guy that built the Mammoth Pool on Zigzag. We have Terrence from Dope Wars, and just many, many more people that we can't list right now, all of them. And they're just coming together to ideate on things, to discuss things, to figure out how do we build this stuff the correct way. And then on the other side, we have like content and coordination people. So we have people that host workshops. We have like a weekly developer call. We have people that write blog posts, Twitter threads, because we, of course, have to somehow get the message out about this new narrative, right, about on-chain gaming and the power of composability. And now Yoni can dive a bit into like our accelerator model and how we actually structure this.
Hey everyone. So basically, the way we are doing it is that on the like very similar to that how in a regular accelerator you have in one side like mentors and in the other side participants. With Matchbox, the mentors are the core contributors. So those are established game developers that have a better sense of how the future looks like, and they just lacks in time because they have so many ideas, and they are willing to mentor new people in helping building this future, but they don't have enough time. So on the other side, you have a lot of people that are interested in building in general applications, but mainly games on Starknet, and they don't actually know what to build. So we created a program that we call the Matchbox Fellowship. And in this program, we are helping people from not knowing what they want to do or being just in the beginning into building a proof of concept. And basically the way we are doing it is that we either get people to propose their idea or build it out of a list of open ideas that we have, or join to one of our existing working groups and product that we're already building, and partner with someone that is already started building something. So can you move one slide? And okay, so this is some examples for things that we are currently working on, which also Guilty and Alex will introduce after this presentation. So just some examples are procedural word generation, which is on-chain Minecraft, but basically this Minecraft can be used as an application and can be used as a component. So everything that we are building, we are releasing as an application first to be used from the day one, but also like it's a component. So others can use this thing in order to spin out their game very quickly. So basically what we see is as we go forward, we're building more and more and more of those games and primitives that basically every new developer that are coming, it's easier for him to create his own game because he's taking like one of our primitives or two of our primitives and tweak it and create something out of that. So that is kind of our eventual goal, that in the future, when a new developer will come to Matchbox, he will be able to create something within a week. Where now it takes like some few months because we need to build the first, building blocks and infrastructure. So yeah. So is there any other? Okay, so that's our grant program that I've spoke about. If you can move another one. Okay, so besides building products, another thing that we are doing that we found useful for our members is weekly workshops. So every week we are doing one workshop that basically introduce a library or introduce a tool that can help our members and basically educate them regarding how to build things using those tools. So until now we had like 3 of those workshops, and the next workshop will be with Francesco about the React library that he built, and another workshop will be about a specific primitive that we built, and we want people to use it in order to build potentially a game out of, which is it's called mental poker, or it's basically a primitive that can generate a deck of cards. So that's the next 2 workshops, but feel free to follow our next workshops every week. Yeah, so that's about the workshops. Okay, so basically our plans for the future is build more stuff. So if you are talented developers and you don't know what to build on Starknet, feel free to reach out, and we can walk you through all of the things that you could build and help you to understand what can be built and give you some ideas and potentially get you into our fellowship program to start building it. So that's kind of our main goal, to expand the primitives that we are building, hopefully into 100. Right now it's 10. So another thing that we hope to expand is our suite of services, and basically our goal is to serve developers. So we are listening into the developers' needs, and if we'll find more things that could be helpful, we will do it. And the last but not least is to create, so one of those things is to create a player base. So what we understood is that to be a guild in on-chain games is not to be a guild in traditional games, because the players that are using on-chain games are much smart, not necessarily much smarter, but much more kind of sophisticated players. And another thing that we feel that will be very helpful for our members is create a user base for them. So that's what we are going to use the solve to mint for, basically to create an initial user base that will get different incentives and access to different things. And with time, we'll have a growing community of beta testers, which are users that want to play, want to be the first users of those blockchain games. So yeah, I'll let Guiltygyoza expand on the solve to mint, but yeah, that's basically it.
Okay, thank you, Yoni. So do you want to move forward with the presentation of Alessandro? Or are you finished, or?
Yeah, now
we're finished.
Yeah, I'm finished.
Wonderful. So thank you for that great introduction. It's really interesting and very ambitious. And so Alessandro will present one of the first projects that is incubated by Matchbox. Is that it? Wonderful.
Hello, everyone. What I'm presenting today is OGame, which it was very popular online browser game in the early 2000s. It's a space theme multiplayer where player can build structures to accumulate resources and build ships to make trades and attack other player to steal their resources. The game had a very big community around it in the 2000s, and used to bring a lot of people together. And what happened after is that the company who runs it started to add pay to progress options, which in a sense they ruined the game a little bit, and now is not really popular anymore. So my idea is to bring the good things about the game together with the good things about on-chain gaming. In this case, it would be the planets, which constitute the base of the game, would be NFTs, and then the resources, which are main three kind of resources, would be ERC20 token. And possibly in the future, there will be also integration of ERC 1155 tokens. So what I'm trying to do is bring in together a few standards and also bring so make the player be owners of the time they spent on the game, developing their own assets. So yeah, this is the idea.
Okay. Up. Okay, thank you for this presentation. That was fast. Do you have an estimate for when this will be released or usable?
Yeah, the backend of the first version is almost ready, and we are now working with Matchbox at the front end.
Super cool.
Possibly in a month time, it will be.
Very nice. If I may ask, we often talk about the capacity of Starknet to do more than just hosting assets on Starknet. I don't know if while designing a OGame, this is something you were able to play with. For now, did you put mostly the market logics in the backend, or did you implement some kind of physics and
So at the moment in the backend is the gain logic implemented. The market side will be implemented by other people. The ERC20 order book will be implemented by someone from Matchbox, which is Mortimer. And Francesco, I know Francesco is working on an NFT primitive to allow smart contract for exchange of NFTs to be integrated in the game. So those are also in work.
Very cool. This sounds like it sounds like you have a lot of people from different background and different time zones to work together. This is this a challenge in your developing process and in the experience of creating OGame?
I will probably know in a month time when the first version of logic will be ready, and I will start to integrate all these parts from outside, and I will probably let you know after that.
Okay, cool. So when you do launch, don't hesitate and come back on the community call to tell us more about it.
Of course, sure.
Cool, thank you. And so following Alessandro, we have Guiltygyoza presenting Solve to Mint.
Hello.
Very nice. Thank you, Swag. So
Hello.
we can see Swag's screen.
Can you hear my voice?
I can hear your voice. I
Perfect.
can't hear it on Discord though.
Right. Do you want me to unmute on Discord as well?
If you could, that would be ideal so that people there can also follow.
Yeah. I see. Hello.
We can hear you now.
Great. So Softimint. A topology, we believe that we are all building alternative realities additional to this world that we live in. And we believe that the richness and complexity of these realities is determined by the sophistication of the physics that is underlying these realities. And so topology is building physics simulation and physics engine in Cairo. And one of the first proof of concept for this endeavor at topology is the Softimint concept, which MatchboxDAO is collaborating with us to productize it and to get more awareness on the interestingness of this framework. And to talk a little bit about Softimint framework, we can take a look at the prominent NFT auction model. When it comes to NFT auctions, or in general, how NFTs are distributed to people, there is roughly two features. The first one is there is sort of an artificial scarcity, defined by the NFT project developers. 10K, 8,888, these rather artificial figures. So that's the first property. The second property would be you are asking people to commit capital in order to acquire an NFT from you. And in that sense, you are filtering people with the amount of capital that they feel comfortable or they would like to commit to the project. And in that sense, you're also filtering out and rejecting people that might not be able to afford the NFT or the auction, but they have knowledge and they have enthusiasm for your project. So Softimint is a concept that said, let's use knowledge to filter people, not the amount of capital that they are willing to contribute. Softimint is essentially solving a puzzle to mint an NFT. And this puzzle is verified on Starknet in Cairo. So there's no middleman. The criterion for a solution to a puzzle to be accepted is transparent in the Cairo contract. Now, the Softimint, and also coming back to the first property, which is most NFT projects have a relatively artificial scarcity defined by the project developer. With the Softimint, there isn't necessarily a scarcity that's known a priori, which means we as developers and launchers of the Softimint projects don't necessarily know how scarce or how abundant the solution space is. And if we give one NFT to one solution, then the scarcity of the NFT is determined by the size of the solution space, right? This may be a little bit abstract, so let's go into an example, right? So as an simplest example, you look at Softimint and look at class C. Class C is the weakest class of Softimint. Right? So example, we can put a polynomial equation in the smart contract, and we ask people to submit solution to that equation. And this is relatively simple. Anyone reading the Cairo contract can extract the equation and solve it very quickly, or plug it into Wolfram online and get the solutions very quickly. But still, it's a demonstration of the system. Now, going to class B, which has moderate difficulty, you would have a problem, a numerical problem that there's no closed form solution to it. So you don't solve it easily. You have to run, for example, numerical simulation, or you have to rely on your heuristics in order to find solution. In a sense, this can be said as NP problem. And this is interesting because now you have a numerical puzzle enforced by a transparent Cairo contract sitting on Starknet, and you're inviting anyone who may have a solution to submit the solution to the contract and get verified and then get an NFT in return. Now, we can also enforce that only the discoverer of new solution can get an NFT, right? So if a solution is found, you don't get to rediscover it. It's already found, right? So the protocol here would incentivize people to find new solution and to find other corners of the solution space that is not explored yet by the previous participant. Right, so this is class B. Well, class A is perhaps the strongest of the Softman concept, and this also requires some technical capacity. And Starknet is a wonderful playground for implementing this. So what class A is that you're, as participant, you're not asked to submit numbers or just a solution to the puzzle. You're asked to submit a Cairo contract that can solve the puzzle for you. And the verifier contract on Starknet will interact with your solution contract and essentially test with random problems whether your solution contract can solve them all. Now, this is a very complex system. So we are starting with class B as of now. So class B, coming back and review it, it's a numerical problem that's verifiable on Starknet in the Cairo contract, and everyone is welcome and incentivized to submit new solutions to the contract. And I think that Matchbox DAO is going to release the first Softman concepts in a week of time. That is what I believe to be so. Swag or Yoni, feel free to correct me. And I won't say too much about the puzzle because it's meant to be a puzzle. However, the puzzle is using the physics engine that Topology has built in Cairo. So it's a numerical physics puzzle. Right. So as a participant, you roughly have a couple choices. You can guess solutions randomly, right? You can go to the website and put in random numbers and hope that it's 6. Or you can dig into the Cairo contract, which is completely the spirit here, asking you to dig into the Cairo contract and learning a Cairo while solving the puzzle, and to learn about the nature of the physics puzzle that is enforced by the contract, and come back to the website. Or if you like to go raw, you can go to Voyager and submit your solutions there as well, and find new solutions. And perhaps the third approach is for people that have some programming background, you can run some physics simulation locally to help you solve the puzzle better. Right, so and I'll only say so much. It's a physics puzzle, and feel free to dig into the contract to learn the true nature of the puzzle.
I can just add the Matchbox context to that puzzle. So basically, we are going to release this puzzle in order to attract solvers that will get special access inside of Matchbox, and will be future participants in the creation of like other puzzles, and also be be the first one to use other games that we will release. So yeah, I highly recommend trying to solve the puzzle.
Thank you,
I
Yoni.
think I can add a little bit color to what Yoni said. At least there are two ways to apply this concept. The first is to apply this concept for DAO admission, and the second way is for general Cairo education. Right. So in terms of DAO admission, of course, you can ask people to invest in your DAO token, but again, you're gating people on their willingness to contribute capital. So the alternative here is to use some kind of soft-admit concept where you have puzzles representing the nature of the DAO, and you ask people that can submit solutions that's verified by the contract to have a chance of entering the DAO. Right, and so you have a way to gauge people's knowledge and evaluate your prospective members that way. Well, in terms of education, because Softman system relies requires you to study the chiral contract. So you're having fun while learning chiral at the same time. So it's going to be something that serves multiple purposes.
Thank you. How comfortable should people doing the Solve 2 Mint challenge be with physics, like in general?
Right. Well, so in the upcoming Solve 2 Mint puzzle, it's very rudimentary physics. You can say that you don't even need to know precisely how numerical physics work. But there is, so it will be ideal if you study the chiral contract and learn just the nature of the puzzle, and you can visualize it on paper, and you can already, I believe, you will have heuristics. You will have a sense of how to solve the puzzle without ever running any equation solvers or programs. So I think that the first puzzle is very simple. If you can learn the nature of it, and if you can visualize it yourself, you will be able to find good enough solutions. Probably not the best solutions, but good enough solutions.
Okay, very cool. Thank you. So from what you said, the Solve 2 Mint challenge will be released around the end of this week, right? Will you guys also be presenting this at the Encode Hackathon in 2 days?
Yes.
Very nice. And the challenge will be running for an indefinite period of time, right? So people will be able to compete and play for a long time.
Yeah, but we have
we can't hear you on Discord, Yoni.
Oh, sorry. 1 second. I will unmute myself. So yes, it will be indefinite period of time, but we'll have basically a special NFT for the first solvers. I think it's the first 20 solvers, or the best 20 solvers. I need to check out the announcement post, but yeah, so there will be a special NFT for the best solvers, but in principle, it will be for a longer period of time for people to try out.
Mm-hmm. And let's say I know somebody who knows the sequencer of Starknet. Is there any way he can cheat?
Guilty?
Sorry, can I get the question again?
Sure. It was a joke. Basically, no. I mean, like, it's a joke, but it's half a joke. My joke was, if I'm the sequencer of Starknet, can I manipulate that in any way?
Right.
Implying that I'd be trying to win by cheating, but I
Right.
sure I don't need that. But I mean, more globally, my question is, I mean, this seems like a concept where we'll discover a whole new avenue of MEV. I mean, gaming on the blockchain is great, but being able to have gameplay on the blockchain, and it opens up a lot of perspective. I was wondering if it's something you're considering, if you think there are interesting points around that, or not necessarily.
Right. So this is a fantastic question. Well, I think in the short term, we ask Starkware to not cheat, but over long term, we need to really look into how MEV works when it comes to the context of on-chain games. Well, so going into a little bit detail here, as a sequencer, theoretically, you know what transactions are submitted and you can execute it. Right? And so if you find a solution, a transaction that includes a solution, and as a sequencer, if you know that that solution is a wonderful one, you can front run it. This is the first order response to this. So I think there will be a roster of very weird bribing mechanics slash incentive mechanics to either ask cheater to not do this, or bribe cheater to share some profits with the solution submitter. But it's going to be a very weird future that's waiting for us.
Maybe this is also the way we'll finally get privacy-preserving techniques on the blockchain. I mean, whales maybe don't care that much about privacy. I mean, not a lot of them, but pro gamers for sure do. Nobody wants to get front run when you are solving a hard challenge or when you're about to complete a quest. So maybe gaming will be the way we democratize and develop interesting privacy techniques.
Fantastic. I do see that it will be very important to implement some privacy mechanics that works together with the self-domain concept.
Great, thank you. So from what I understand from Solve2Mint, so you will release Class A and Class B. So Class A will be more accessible. People will be able to either solve this with a traditional math problem, so Wolfram or something. What kind of tool should we like get familiar with? For example, it's been a long time since I haven't used a mathematical software. Last time I used something was MATLAB a long time ago. Should I install it again? How do I get set up with that?
Right. I think so. Yoni and Swag can correct me if I'm wrong. I think the supplement puzzle that will be released very soon is a Class B system. I think it may be desirable for us to release a Class C, sort of as a tutorial, introducing people to Class B. But I believe that the one that's upcoming is a Class B directly. And I think that personally, I think that as a hint, the physics here is very intuitive when you understand what is really going on in the contract. So the only thing that you as a aspiring NFT mentor need to do is to study the Cairo contract, which will be released as public GitHub repository together with the puzzle. So that's the only thing you need to know. Once you understand what is really going on, it's a very intuitive puzzle. You can solve it by visualizing yourself, and on paper you can find solutions. That's what I believe.
Very nice, thank you. An extra question there, maybe it's more of a programming question. Maybe it's a bit fuzzy, but let me try to explain it. In the Solve2Mint challenge, you basically have all players playing against a machine, right? Against the same equation. So, there's a physics puzzle that we need to solve. But I'm guessing it means that each person has its own relationship with the physics itself, but various players are not aware of each other and can't interact with each other. However, theoretically, you could use the same physics engine to have different players be part of the game and have player versus player. But I mean, it raises a whole lot of questions as to how do you represent the state of the game and move it forward. I was wondering if you had some insight on that. Does my question make sense?
I think so. Yeah. So the concept here, as of now, is restricted to single player experience. It's only you against the puzzle, and the puzzle is transparent. It's literally you against a threshold in knowledge you have to cross in order to solve it. When it comes to player versus player mechanics, and also about running more complex physics, there are some constraints that come to this. For example, if you want to run more complex physics, you might, and this is meant to be for Cairo developers in the audience, you will run into the resource constraint per transaction on Starknet. And this would go back to another project in the MatchboxDAO roster or portfolio of projects, which is Yagi Finance. Yagi Finance is building a automation system on Starknet. So when it comes to Solve2Mint that has a complex physics, what Yagi Finance can help is to carry on the simulation, right? So if I have a very complex simulation that takes 10 transactions to complete, Yagi Finance can jump in and call the contract and help me finish the simulation. And so this would relieve the developer of the stress or of the responsibility to continue the simulation. It will also relieve the player of the stress and also the gas fee required to complete the puzzle. So that's, I guess that's coming back to Yagi Finance. This is definitely not a stage question.
Great, this is really interesting. Yeah, this is nothing to do exactly with that here, but we were discussing with someone who is looking into music on Starknet, and we were saying, yeah, you could have the soundtrack of a video game being played by an algorithm at every block, and you could use Yagi to push it forward. Anyway, related to video games, but not directly. Okay, guys, thank you a lot for your presentation. This is really insightful and really interesting. Where do we follow you? Where do we see Solvement being pushed? Which Twitter account should we follow and retweet?
Yeah, so definitely follow MatchboxDAO on Twitter. It's Matchbox_DAO, I think. We also have a mirror where we published this blog post that you just saw on screen about Solvement. We also have a Discord server where we have discussion channels for all of the different working groups, for all the different projects and primitives we have, where a lot of discussion is going on, and all the smart minds come together to figure this stuff out. And I just want to say one more thing. We are going to release a blog post soon outlining our grants program. So if you have any idea, if you dream of building anything related to on-chain gaming on Starknet, you can wait for that, or you can also reach out to us right now. We will be happy to talk, happy to support you, and definitely go check out our Discord, check out the working groups, see what sparks your interest. I'm sure there's something for you in there.
Amazing, thank you. All right, so I think this concludes the presentation for today's calls. It's been pretty quiet. I haven't seen many questions in the community call channel on Discord, and I haven't seen many on YouTube either. If you have questions, don't hesitate and ask them there while we still have a few minutes. Otherwise, I think we can thank you guys for your contribution. And we're really looking forward to what you guys have in store for the future. One extra question quickly. Do you guys like, what kind of video games do you guys play? What is the universe you guys come from in terms of video games? Are there any specific ecosystem or games you guys are really into, or is the team each and everyone playing in a bit of different games?
Are you asking about on-chain games specifically, or games in general?
More broadly, any games.
Okay, sure. So I really enjoy shooters, but I also enjoy, like, I have like a thing for games that really make you addicted to them. So for example, which is why I'm so excited about OGame, this browser space game, because I played it back in the day and it was super addicting, right? And so Alessandro is building that on Starknet, and I can't wait to check out the first release and see how it goes. I'm super excited about that.
Thank you. So there's a question by DT Davis. I understand and appreciate the emphasis on physics puzzle, but will there be more Cairo-specific ones like the Cairo games? That's a good question. I think, so the Cairo games, for those who are not aware, were a set of games and mostly math and cryptographic games that were released a few, I was going to say back in the days. It's not that far in the past, but it's sometime in the past. And that were really focused on the Cairo language and zero knowledge proof, I think. Right now, I mean, here I'm going to take a step back and talk a bit more about, educating people on Cairo and Starknet. Provable program and Cairo in general and Starknet in particular are a very new programmation paradigm. And it's really hard to see exactly what will emerge on top of it. I think that's one of the most, that's both very exciting and very frustrating. It's very exciting because, once you wrap your mind around the fact that there is raw power at your disposal and you can do new stuff that you couldn't do before, this is really stimulating to a lot of people. It's also very frustrating because when people say, hey, so what's going to come and what's going to be built with that, it's hard to come up with an answer. That's the future by definition is not defined. So it's hard to say, this will happen, people will build that. And so, what's really cool about the initiative of Salt to Mint, for example, it's people who are enthusiastic about something, who are looking at a new technology and thinking, how can I apply this to my particular vertical, to my particular passion? So that's why, they're focusing on physics, because it makes sense for physics to be applied to games. Now, there are a lot more things you can do with Cairo, and I'm sure we're going to see some cool initiatives emerge in the future. If there are some that you'd be interested in, reach out. I'd be curious to know what you think are cool stuff we could imagine and build on top of Cairo. And if there are some things you want to develop, and games and challenges to tickle people's brain and make them interested in getting to build with us, with all of us, that would be fantastic. So reach out for that also. I'd mention also that it was announced yesterday that we're going to have a Cairo 100-handed contest, which is basically, so it's not a capture the flag. It's basically a competition where you have to write malicious code, and you get to write malicious code, and people need to try to figure out why it is malicious. So it's a competition for malicious code, but it's all friendly and nice, and hopefully this has interesting and stimulating discussions around Cairo, and it helps underline and outline attack surface on top of Cairo. So if you're interested in these kind of games, also join these. And if you're interested in with challenges, so there are more around usability of Starknet, but we still have we have a bunch of tutorials that we released that revolve around ERC20, so how to do an ICO on Starknet, customize an ERC20 to do an ICO, ERC721, so customizing ERC721 to raise animals. We recently released one about messaging bridge, so how do you, have an action on L2, have some impact on L1? And so we're writing all of these as kind of challenges. You can collect points. We're trying to gamify it to make it fun to play. So yeah, it's a long answer, but something specifically like the Cairo games, we know there's interest in doing something like that. Right now what matters is bandwidth. How do we get to address all of these things people want at the same time? If you want to help and you want to get involved doing these things, please do. We're happy to have you. And I think we've covered. Oh, there are more questions on YouTube. So Zero Knowledge is asking, and that's a question for you, Matchbox, I think. How do you plan to monetize open source tools for devs? Is there a sustainable model with opening tools to the public for people to use, etc.?
I can take this. So the plan is basically to have a repository of open source tooling that anybody can use, or even game components, and then we can actually productize the games that are built on top, right? So the underlying tooling and components are open source, but we can spin those out into games, and then we can monetize those games. So if Matchbox is, for example, incubating a game, then we can have an agreement with the game that we get to invest into the game, but all of the underlying things that we build are all open source. So there's nothing there that we would monetize directly. So that's the model that we are following.
Thank you. That's interesting, because in a game, ultimately what matters is not just the technology, it's also the community and the people involved with the game, right? This is harder to fork.
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool. We have another question on YouTube. How does the on-chain game logic work on Starknet? Do you perform action on a server and verify the settled state with a Cairo contract, or is every action of the game specified in the contract? So yeah, do you guys want to answer this one?
I think I'll defer this to Guilty, who has probably a much better understanding of this than I do.
So I'll try to answer. I think the difference between Ethereum and Starknet with regard to computation is the following. On Ethereum, if you do the computation off-chain, you can post it on-chain, and Ethereum basically has to trust you. On Starknet, right now, what you would have is you would have to do the computation on chain. So the computation is done on chain and is part of the proof that will ultimately get settled on Ethereum. This is because we don't have yet in Starknet the capacity to verify a proof. But eventually, you're right. We can imagine a lot of other stuff. You could imagine something a la DYDX, where the logic is executed off-chain and just the proof is submitted to Starknet. But it is not something that is possible right now. Do you guys want to add something, Matchbox?
I think that was a very good explanation.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we've covered all the questions I have seen. If you still have some, you can post them in community call channel and we'll be happy to answer them. And other than that, I invite you to check the community call channel. There's the Matchbox Twitter and Discord, as well as a description of their mission and activity. And I think we can conclude today's community call. Thank you again for your time and your thank you for your brain time. In 2 weeks, so the next 2 community calls are going to be a bit different. We're probably not going to have a member or team presentation. In 2 weeks, we're going to talk decentralization. We will have Ohad from Starkware presenting, concepts and ideas we have around decentralization of Starknet. Is basically going to be a follow-up on all the Shaman's post he pushed recently. So if you want to come prepared and with questions, do go read this post. This is an important topic and it's going to be a really interesting discussion. So be there in 2 weeks. And then in another 2 weeks, community call will basically happen during the Starknet hackathon in Amsterdam. So I don't think we're going to make a formal call, but it will probably just be me with the computer walking around the hackathon and saying hello to everyone and presenting teams, and you'll be able to pitch your project if you're at the hackathon. So this is what's going to happen for the next two events. By the way, I wanted to mention something else. We have a hackathon in Amsterdam right after Dev Connect. So if you want to attend, there are still some tickets. Do register because I'm not sure. I think it's going to be sold out at some point. So register, come prepared by doing some Cairo before and try to find a team on Discord. I also wanted to mention that on Discord, there are some people writing a tool that help you aggregate what happens on a Discord server and publish it as an excerpt. It's called Wrap Up, and they're present on Discord. I'm going to publish a link to what they're doing on our server. It's basically a tool to try to make it easier for you to manage your Discord management. So take a look at their tool. They're looking for feedback, and they'll be happy if you send them some. And with that being said, thank you again, everyone, and let's conclude the call for this week.
Thank you so much for having us. It was great.
Thanks, Henry.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.